Sometimes the darkness inside a person is completely invisible from the outside. Sometimes a quiet kid, a good student, a loving son, is nothing more than a well-played role. This is the story of an ordinary-looking boy and his descent into an extraordinary darkness. This is the story of Atalay Filiz. Atalay Filiz was born in Ankara in 1986. His father was a military officer. He grew up in a strict, orderly, and disciplined household. On the outside, his childhood seemed perfectly normal. A successful student, a quiet personality, loved books, fascinated by technology. But something was missing. Emotion. His classmates would later say he didn't talk much, he was quiet, but smart. Still, there was something strange. Whenever he entered a room, the energy would shift. He was highly intelligent but had no empathy. To him, people were tools. Deep down, there was an emptiness he couldn't explain, but he never showed it. Atalay got accepted into Galatasaray High School, one of the most elite schools in Turkey. He learned French, had a natural gift for languages. Books, classes, strategy games, those were his world. But there was something unusual. He never belonged to any group. Some friends said he played chess like a master. They admired his mind, but no one ever really knew what he was thinking. One teacher later said, "That boy was never really a child. He always thought like an adult, calculated like one. But you could see he carried a deep loneliness." High school, Atalay started showing signs of psychological cracks. Sometimes he would secretly go through his classmates' notebooks, but never got caught. He had a habit of watching people, studying their movements, their routines, and secretly taking notes. Some thought it was just curiosity, but it was actually a need for control. Years later, people found old notebooks filled with secret writings, coded messages he had written to himself. Some of them were deeply disturbing. Some people exist just to be watched, others to be eliminated. Years later, a strange detail would come to light. Back in 2011, several bizarre messages had been printed in newspapers. Zeynep will pass through Moscow on the 9:45 train. Will Olga stop at platform 3? Some of these ads were placed in France, some in Turkey. To some, it looked like a cryptic game. To others, it was something much darker, the first signs of a mind unraveling. Atalay always wore a mask for the world, but the darkness inside him was now ready to break free. And its first target was a woman who had rejected his love. High school ended. Atalay moved to France for graduate studies. But in truth, he had no plans for a career. People who met him there noticed something strange. He almost never came to class. He was always researching things, keeping people at a distance, taking notes, sometimes just sitting alone at train stations for hours. And then he met a woman, Olga Seregına. For Atalay, everything changed. Because this wasn't just a relationship. This was the beginning of an obsession. Paris, the city of love and art. But some loves don't bloom in the heart. They are born in the twisted corners of a dark mind. And some loves aren't love at all. They're obsession. Atalay enrolled at Paris Sud University to study physics. But according to his classmates, school was never really a priority for him. One of the people he met there was Olga Seregına, a cheerful, social, and vibrant young woman of Russian descent, the exact opposite of Atalay. At first, nothing unusual was observed between them. But over time, Atalay's interest began to grow. This wasn't attention, it was an obsession. Atalay couldn't bear the idea of being just a friend to Olga. Whenever she didn't show enough interest, he would shut down emotionally, disappear without warning, then suddenly show up again. At one point, Olga confided in her friends, "I feel like he's always watching me, but I don't think he'd ever hurt me, I guess." That trust was the beginning of the end. Atalay began obsessively monitoring Olga's social media. When she was online, who her friends were, who she posted pictures with, he tracked every step. There were also claims that Atalay had hacked into her emails and gained access to some of her passwords. To him, this wasn't an act of love. It was a declaration of ownership. It's like his eyes are always on me. But this isn't love. It's something else. Maybe control. One day, Olga finally told Atalay, "I see you as a friend. Please accept that." Something snapped inside him. Years later, a witness would recall. That day, Atalay's eyes looked hollow. It was like something had shut off inside, and someone else had taken his place. From that point on, Olga was no longer a person to him. She was an object, one that had rejected him. And to Atalay, rejection was a personal war. In 2011, Olga reportedly set out to travel from France to Turkey, but she was never heard from again. Her family and friends grew concerned. They contacted the police, but there were no leads, no trace. French police report. Olga Seregına was last seen in the company of Atalay Filiz. No further contact has been made since. Shortly after her disappearance, Atalay abruptly returned to Turkey. No formal charges were filed, and Olga was gone. Years later, Olga's mother would say, "My daughter never came back, but I saw her eyes, in Atalay. That man had something else inside him." Olga's disappearance unleashed the full darkness within Atalay. He no longer recognized morality, law, or limits, and when he returned to Turkey, he had already chosen his next target. After 2011, Atalay was no longer the same. He wasn't just withdrawn, he was methodical, obsessive, and potentially dangerous. He wasn't preparing for a new life in Turkey. He was preparing for a new chain of crimes. And this time, his target was someone sharp enough to unravel him. Fatma Kayıkçı, a woman full of secrets, from the mysterious Gökmen family. Why does someone kill? Is it a sudden decision, or a plan forged over years in the mind? In this story, murder isn't an act of rage. It's a calculated descent into darkness, step by step. In 2014, Atalay Filiz arrived in Istanbul. He slipped into white-collar life without raising suspicion, using fake documents and a new name, Furkan Altın. He got a job as a biology teacher at a private school, the same school where Fatma Kayıkçı worked. From the outside, he was quiet, polite, introverted. But inside, Olga still haunted him, and he was still terrified of being watched. Fatma Kayıkçı worked as a cleaning staff member at the school. She was diligent, observant, and paid attention to detail. One day, she noticed discrepancies in Atalay's documents. The dates on his certificates don't match. His ID information is suspicious, she said, and then shared her concerns with a few teachers. For Atalay, that was the alarm bell. The identity he had hidden for years was now at risk, and he would never let his past be exposed. It was an ordinary day for everyone but Atalay. That evening, Fatma Kayıkçı disappeared. No one saw it. No one heard a thing. 2 days later, her body was found in an empty lot, wrapped in a garbage bag. Autopsy revealed she had been strangled. The murder was executed with precision. No fingerprints, no physical evidence, no witnesses. Police described the scene as so silent, so organized, so well planned. It was like someone had rehearsed it. After the murder, Atalay vanished without panic. He withdrew money from his bank accounts. He bought fake IDs and a counterfeit passport online. Then he fled to Eskişehir under a new identity. There, he posed as a librarian, living a quiet, low-profile life. People around him respected him. No one imagined he could be a killer. Witness statement. He read books every day, never argued with anyone. But his eyes, there was something in them, so deep, so silent. Fatma Kayıkçı's phone pinged for the last time near Atalay's home. Security footage showed both of them entering the building at the same time, but only Atalay came out. A search of his apartment revealed evidence of deep cleaning, traces of wiped blood, and used trash bags. But Atalay was already long gone. That's when the police made it public. Atalay Filiz is wanted for murder. As the days passed, Atalay's name was everywhere. TV screens, newspapers, social media. The Tuzla butcher, suspected serial killer. The killer in the shadow of the missing Russian girl. And people were saying the same thing. That man isn't human. He has no emotion. It's like he's a robot. Atalay was running out of places to hide. The police were closing in. But he remained calm, still calculated, still hidden. Until a street bagel vendor's suspicion changed everything. Final days of hiding in Izmir, the moment of recognition, his arrest, and first interrogation. What happens when you change your identity dozens of times? Even if you hide your face. One day, someone you least expect will recognize you. And in that moment, everything ends. After Istanbul, then Eskişehir, Atalay Filiz made his way to Izmir. There, he lived like a camper, in a tent, in a mountainous area on the outskirts of the city. To avoid detection, he grew out his hair and beard, wore different clothes, avoided daylight completely, and only moved at night. But even this isolation had its limits. Morning of June 9th, 2016. A bagel vendor setting up his cart in Buka spotted a familiar-looking man. He looked dirty, exhausted, and uneasy. But something about him stood out. He looks just like that killer I saw on TV. The vendor didn't hesitate. He called the police. Police spotted a man matching the description shortly after. When they ordered him to stop, he didn't resist. Inside his backpack, they found 4 cell phones, 2 fake IDs, 1 knife, 1 sum of cash, several books on cults, psychology, and nature. And who was this man? Atalay Filiz, the most wanted man in Turkey, was now in police custody. Atalay was taken to Izmir police headquarters for questioning. There was no panic, no regret. One of his first statements was, "I don't need a lawyer. I'll tell you everything." But even as he confessed, he chose his words carefully. He spoke without emotion, like an actor delivering lines on stage. From the police report, Fatma Kayıkçı threatened me. She was going to expose my identity. I acted in self-defense. Within minutes, the news spread nationwide. Atalay Filiz has been captured. People were desperate for answers. Why did he kill? What happened with Olga? Were there more victims? As he was taken into custody, he wore a chilling smirk on his face, as if this too was just part of the game. Police questioned Atalay again and again. Where is Olga Seregına? But his answer never changed. I last saw her on her way to Hatay. I don't know what happened after that. That became the biggest mystery of all. Atalay Filiz was officially incarcerated. He was placed in solitary confinement. No contact with other inmates. Some had already tried to attack him. He was kept under psychological observation, and the unanswered questions lingered. What happened to Olga? How many people had he really killed? What was his true motive? Psychological profile, behavioral analysis, narcissistic personality disorder claims, media obsession, and society's reaction. Sometimes, a crime isn't the result of a sudden breakdown. It's a cold, calculated answer from a twisted mind to a world it cannot accept. But what if that world only exists inside his head?